I'm starting a new project on an EFI conversion on a '69 Mustang, and it took me about 10 years to build this car, and it was done about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, when I got ready to select a fuel system for the car, fuel injection wasn't all that popular, and it wasn't well developed for the larger engines, such as this is a 429 stroke to 520 Boss motor. Puts out about 800 horsepower, which there's no one that offer a kit that would do that. So, but thankfully, recently, about a couple years ago, Holley came out with a Sniper Stealth 4500, and that would support 800 horsepower that this car is putting out. And so I got the kit from Holley, and now we're just about to go and do the conversion on this vehicle. I'm gonna try to show you as much as I can throughout the project, and hopefully you know, it will improve on performance of the car, startup and things like that. The biggest thing for me to go to EFI is that with carburetor, it takes a while to start up and warm up, and that's always a problem for me. This car having very little volume, and so its RPM doesn't get stabilized for several minutes, and the car is extremely loud. It does not have a muffler, and when I try to rev up the engine, try to warm up, the neighbor is not too crazy about that. You know, it's very loud. They can't even hear themselves talking on the other side of the fence. So I figure, you know, this would be a quick startup and go. You know, not to annoy the neighbors, but I do enjoy the nice sound out of the car. So that's the biggest thing about this conversion. And also a lot of my friends saying that after the conversion, the fuel smell will go away. And that was another issue with these, is that the fuel smell pretty bad, you know, after you park the car. So anyhow, enough talking. Let's take a look at what we got as far as the kit goes. So basically there's three major components to the kit. That'll be the fuel system, and of course the unit that replaced the carburetor with fuel injection, and of course the electrical hookup. So first, let's take a walk over and take a look at the fuel delivery unit. I purchased pretty much the entire fuel system from a company called Tanks Inc. And they sell the fuel tank. It's a submersible pump unit, and also the associated you know, kits to go with it. So we'll take a look. So here's the kit for the fuel. Basically stainless steel fuel tank with let's take a look at over here first. So the tank comes with all the associated kit for installation into these two holes. Bigger holes are for fuel, smaller holes are for the fuel sending unit. So that goes there with all the instruction that's provided, and fuel pump, and of course there's instructions on how to mount them. That comes with the kit, and this with the vent. So basically that's it. It's a submersible pump, and yeah, that's pretty much as far as fuel goes. The only thing I need is the filter and also regulator close to the tank. That way I can do a return line back and don't have to go towards the front of the car. All right, so here's the Throttle Body Kit that came from Holley. Basically, this is the main throttle body. The ECU is actually mounted right into the throttle body, so you know, it's a much cleaner setup. All the wirings are pretty much plug and play. Let's see what else here we got. A user interface that can be controlled from inside the car. You just have to get the wire to come out of the car to hook up to the ECU. And then this comes with all the gaskets, instruction manual, everything that you need to know how to install the system. And of course, this is all the wiring, O2 sensors, mounting kit for the O2 sensors. So all that comes in one package. Yeah, basically it looks really good. It's huge. This thing is, I believe the spec was 1400 CFM, capable of putting out 800 horsepower all the way up to way over 1,000 horsepower. For my application, it's just 800, so this would do the job just fine. This got 4 injectors on each side, so there'll be 8 injectors. They're 100 pounds each, so the 800 pounds injectors altogether. As far as the fuel, there's 2 sets of holes you probably can't see, but there's one here and there's one below. They're spaced about 1/4 inch apart, and that's where the fuel actually gets sprayed in as the air comes in. So yeah, the kit looks really nice and simple. Very, very easy to understand how this thing works. So yeah, I look forward to start getting this into the vehicle. Let's take a quick look at the car before I tear everything apart. So basically, this is a 429 Boss built, stroke to 520. It's a John Kazi Boss 9 project. So I originally have the Pro System carburetor on it. You can see it's huge, and it's also rated at almost 1500 CFM. And car runs great. It's produced 800 horsepower at the crank when I did the dyno on the engine. No complaints as far as horsepower goes. But yeah, no, EFI I think is gonna work much better for me to make it a daily, not a daily driver, but at least I can get out on the weekends and not having to wait so much for it to warm up. So yeah, so that's the front of the engine. Right now I'm regulating the fuel to just 8 PSI with a pressure regulator right there. All that's gonna have to change. That regulator is gonna be gone. A Holley regulator and filter is gonna go in. As for the trunk of the car, it's gonna be a big problem for me trying to get the other tank in here, because you can see I had a complete stereo system built in it. All this is gonna have to be ripped out and rebuilt. I think a lot of these has to be reconfigured because the new fuel tank is gonna be a little bit higher, so it's gonna mess up my entire setup. But hey, you know, it's something that I wanted to do, and we just get it done. At this point, I'm getting the fuel tank ready for the install. What we got over here is the sending unit for the fuel level. Real basic stuff. You just dropped it in and lined up the bolts and tightened it up. The filler neck, same thing. These you just lined up and torque it up. Nothing to it. Now the sending unit for the fuel is a little more complicated. These has to be customized to size. The idea is that when this is installed to the top of the tank, which is right here, the bottom of this is barely touching the bottom of the tank. And since the depth of all these tanks are different, they give you this tube a lot longer than what's needed. So you kind of have to do a couple of calculations, adding up all this length, and then subtract from the total depth of the tank, and then shave off like 1/4 of an inch or something from the bottom. And the procedure is right here. You can see some of my calculations, you know, from what they were asking you to do. So yeah, very straightforward. So basically I trimmed that off and get this to size. Electrical lines are very simple. There's only a positive and negative cable, and it plugs right into the fuel pump. And yeah, that's it. Inserting this in, it's a little bit of a challenge, but it's okay. Basically, you know, the holes are just barely fitting this assembly. But it went in okay. I did it a couple times already. Gotta be careful. You don't want to cut anything. Yeah, so that's about it. And there's a certain direction that I want this to go. I think, yeah, something like that. Just got to get the bolt pattern to match up. And there you have it. All we need to do is just get the screws on here, or the bolts on here, tighten it up to spec. I think there's a torque spec somewhere in this sheet that they asked you to torque it to, but yeah, other than that, tank's done. I got the throttle body on. It's a pretty simple swap. It's just a direct fit for 4500 flange. I still got to deal with all these wires. The only thing I hooked up so far is the O2 sensor. And there is enough length, thankfully, to go to the bottom. We'll raise up the car. We'll show you guys the work down there. As far as the throttle body go, it does look pretty good. Everything fit just fine. And on this side, I was able to use or reuse the Pro System bracket for the pedal, for the gas pedal, and everything is you know, set up properly. There's a couple of springs here. I only use one, and it seems to work out really well. So far so. All right, guys. So here are some shots under the car. So basically, I have two different O2 sensor bone welded in when I put the car together before, just in case I needed it. I had one of these installed with an O2 reader, just so I know how lean or rich I was running with a carburetor. I have a reader on board that tells me the O2 level. So that's always there. This one I capped it off before, but now I used it for the Holley EFI, and it works out good. I have enough cable to kind of just, you know, run it through and loop it around and get it up front, and not to be close to any exhaust component. As you notice, it's pretty close to the frame, probably about ½ an inch clearance. So when you put load in the engine, it actually rotates upwards, And so hopefully that 1/2 inch gap is enough. If not, we'll find out. I'll do some test run and take a look to see if it actually hit. Probably have to weld in some kind of protective case or something here just so it doesn't get hit by random things. But other than that, O2 sensor is hooked up. As for the back of the car, I haven't done much of anything, but definitely all this fuel system is gonna have to be changed. So this is for a low pressure, high volume setup. You can see I got a filter here, fuel coming out of the drain pipe, and also coming out of the tank, because I only have an AN6 on each one of these, and I wanted an AN8 to the front. So 2 AN6 joint with AN8, and then into this massive low pressure pump, pumping around 8 PSI or something like that to the front. And this my fuel line right there. So all this is gonna have to get ripped apart and reconfigured, you know, with a new fuel tank. So the entire stereo system had been ripped apart to get this new fuel tank in. It was a lot of work. Me and my son spent probably 3-4 hours trying to get the old tank out, get this thing back on. But all the bolt patterns fit, everything fit real nicely. The only problem we ran into is that it seems like the new tank is a little bit taller this way, so I had to cut this this neck. It was down to here. I had to trim like a couple of inches to get it fitted, but other than that, it fit perfectly. I got 2 batteries in here powering the stereo system. I'm debating whether I should even put the stereo system back, because I just realized that it weighs so much, probably a couple 100 pounds that I can save from not having it. So I'll make the decision when I get the car running and putting things back. But yeah, that's where we at this point.